Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the P. Carroll Sport podcast. I'm Paul Carroll, and I am looking forward to this podcast now after what was a great game down in Semple Stadium on Saturday evening. If this is your first time listening or watching the podcast on YouTube, after every Tipperary game, I give my thoughts on the game and run you down through my opinions on how the players are looking heading into championship and things like that, and just general discussion about Tipperary hurling is the main aim of this podcast. If you don't know who I am or what I do, I work on Tip FM commentating on the game. So I was commentating on this game on the radio on Saturday night. So I like to just kind of reflect back on the matches after each game, and that's what this podcast is all about. So feel free to get your comments in below, or P Carroll Sport on Twitter is the best place to kind of keep in touch. And yeah, we'll talk down through what was a great win for Tipperary on Saturday night in Semple Stadium, 222 to 121. Victory over Cork, a much needed victory over Cork for Tipperary. Anyone who was down in Semple Stadium in May of last year, that 18-point win for Cork, it was a tough day for Tip supporters that day down in Semple Stadium. But a good night, albeit everyone will say, anyone who says anything about this game will be saying, oh, it's only February, it's only the league. But I'd much prefer to be winning these games than be losing them. So it was as I said, great result for Tipperary. 11,500 people there as well. So good Tip support. Good Cork crowd there as well, obviously. But a lot has been made about the Tipperary support, particularly I thought after the Wexford game, which actually annoyed me a bit. There was over 5,000 people at that Tip Wexford game. Do you know, like not a marquee fixture in terms of the other league games that were to be there. And like I remember on the highlights package on the TV that evening, it was said on it that, oh, it was a poor crowd in Thurles, and I was thinking there was 5,500 people there, and like I see Wexford played Clare today in Ennis, and there was 4,500 people there. So, you know, I do get the point that the Tip support has been poor in recent years. I've said that myself, and it was poor, especially against Cork last year. But I think the Tipperary public are kind of getting in behind this team, and particularly the young players, like Darren McCarthy, who have given Tip supporters a lot to shout about in recent years, and the Tip public are kind of getting in behind these players, and yeah, and results like Saturday night will do an awful lot for that. So let's run down through the game. I'll give all my thoughts. So 222 to 121. As I said, the overriding feeling is great to be winning these games, and Tip needed that. I think, given the lineups as well, you know, Cork were missing a few. If Tip were to lose to that, it would be kind of a here we go again kind of thing. Tip hadn't beaten Cork the last two times Cork came to Thurles to play Tip in the 2022 championship and 2024 championship. You know, they put up 430 and 330 in each of those games. So Tipperary definitely owed Cork one, and albeit it's just a league result, it is definitely one that Tip probably needed more than Cork did. And also it sets Tip up for the rest of the year in terms of they don't really need to worry about relegation now from the league, and they've two games to go against Kilkenny in 2 weeks' time, and then Clare on I think the 23rd. And you know, win one of them and you've a really good chance of getting to a league final. So it kind of opens things up for Tipperary now, and yeah, I was delighted with that. And people, as I was saying, will be saying it's February, it's league, it's whatever, and that is all true. But for this young group of players, I think that will do an awful lot for just the spirit in the group, for the mindset going forward, and just for building momentum towards this championship, which is, you know, week by week it's getting much closer. What are we? April 20th is that first game, Tip at home to Limerick, and then they're away to Cork on the 27th of April. So yeah, let's run you down through it. So 222 to 121. The goals for Tip: Jake Morris and Dylan Walsh. Jake Morris's goal in the first half, Alan Tynan with an outrageous catch. Long ball down the field, and I think it was from a puck out. Alan Tynan just leaps out of the sky, catches it, pops a hand pass off to Jake, and Jake is just running straight down the line of the centre of the Cork defence and up to inside the 21, and drills it low past the goalkeeper. That was a brilliant goal. And the second goal in the second half was a similar type of goal. It was a long ball forward. Jason Ford knocked it down to Craig Morgan, who made a brilliant run from midfield, and Craig burst through. Dylan Walsh, looking back on the replay, when Craig Morgan starts his run outside the 45, Dylan Walsh is standing central position on the 14 with Ger Millerick behind him, and he does what every good forward should do, and he just pulls out of the way. It opens it up. It forces Ger Millerick to either go to Craig Morgan or go to Dylan Walsh, and he kind of has to go to Craig Morgan in that situation because he's the ball carrier, and Craig pops it off to Dylan Walsh, and he still had a bit to do because Jar Miller was able to get back across, and Patrick Collins, the goalkeeper, came out, and Dylan Walsh just slotted it past him, and that's a big goal for him as well. Like, he's played 2 games in the league, 2 goals, and if he can keep those contributions going, and he got blocked down once or twice when he came on from Jar Millerick, and you're thinking, geez, is this going to get away from him after coming on? But that point, that goal will do him an awful lot. But in general, I thought it was a really good performance from Tipperary in terms of work rate, and the biggest thing from this game, I think, for Tipperary to take away and Tipperary supporters to take away from is Tip finished well. Um, how many times have we seen it in the last couple of years where Tip are well in a game with 50 minutes gone and then they start to fade away? And there was a time where I think Cork got 4 in a row after Patrick Horgan came on. Um, Cork got 4 in a row and brought it back to a level game, and you were thinking, here we go again. I think it was it 116 apiece or something like that. I can't think of exact 117 apiece. I think it might have been, and you're thinking, God, we've been we've been here before. And I think there was a bit of tension in the stands as well. I know I was kind of thinking it, and I'd imagine most Tipperary supporters were thinking, what's going to happen in these next 20 minutes? And what did happen was Ronan Maher landed a long range free. Jake Morris got a point. There was another score. I'm trying to see who got that other score. Um, I know Oisin O'Donoghue got one after the goal. There was another score before Tip got the goal, and then that goal came, and it was a big goal for Tipperary, the Dylan Walsh one. But yeah, the work rate, the amount of turnovers Tipperary got was really encouraging to see, especially players like Jake Morris accounted for a good few turnovers and work rate, and Shawnee Kennelly at one stage in the first half was down kind of injured after running from one end of the field to the other. So there's a huge desire in that Tipperary team, and that's kind of step one. Like, that's what the supporters want to see, is just effort and work rate first, and then you see the likes of, I can't believe we've gone uh, 7 minutes into this and I haven't said Darren McCarthy. I was going to say, then you see the likes of the younger players coming through, like Darren McCarthy. His first half was unbelievable. 5 points from play in that first half. 5 points from playing the match. I think they all came in that first half. I'm trying to think, did he get one from playing the second half? Definitely 5 points from playing the match in general. No, it was he got 4 in the first 20 minutes, and then the point he got just before halftime. That was a huge boost for the Tip supporters and the Tip team. That put Tip into a 1 point lead on the halftime whistle, out on the sideline, underneath the newsstand, heading into the Kleinen end. It was a scandalous score from Darren McCarthy, and it actually reminded me of the one he got in the Munster under-20 final last year in the Gaelic grounds, out on the sideline, and somehow finds the accuracy from there. But that lifted the crowd, and you could feel the crowd support in Semple Stadium, and Liam Cowell said as much after, talking about how he could feel the energy coming down from the stands onto the field, and the energy going from the field back up to the stands through the Tip players and the Tip supporters. So and he mentioned how nice of a place it was to be on the sideline, hearing the Tipperary support as well. So that was a huge thing, and that was a huge score for Darren McCarthy, and he really had Ger Millerick in a bad way in that first half. And it wasn't even like, there was a lot of times where the ball would come in and Millerick would be all over him in a good way defensively, but it was just Darren McCarthy uses his body so well. He's able to create space for himself, and he's just deadly accurate when he gets the chance. And he could have had a goal as well. Shawnee Kennelly, who was taken off at half time, had kind of a quiet first half, and then he had that injury, so I'm not sure was he 100%. That could have been why he was injured. Now, I will give Shawnee Kennelly the benefit of the doubt 100%, because he was positioned in that area of the field that was completely cut up. So the amount of ball that went in that and just came back out all through the game, no matter was it Tipperary forwards or Cork forwards at that side of the field between the Kleinen end and the old stand, really cut up, really difficult, because the Tip footballers were playing there beforehand, and it's a wet part of the field there in Semple Stadium. But there was a lot of times Niall O'Leary, it was definitely balls suiting Niall O'Leary more so than Shawnee Kennelly when it was bobbling along the ground coming in. But at one stage a high ball was coming in, and Shawnee Kennelly done really well to keep it in play. And then there was a mix-up between the I think was it Owen Downey or maybe Niall O'Leary and Patrick Collins, the goalkeeper, where the defender just pulled on it, went straight to Darren McCarthy, and he drilled it over the crossbar with kind of his back to goal. But that could have easily ended up in the back of the net. But that was a good piece of play from Shawnee Kennelly, and I mentioned that long range run as well. So we'll run you down through what I thought of the individual performances. As I said, in general, really delighted with just the work rate of the Tip team and how comfortable some of the younger players looked as well, and we'll talk about that as we go on. So Barry Hogan started in goals. Owen Horgan was the sub-goalkeeper. Also worth mentioning as well, at the end of the podcast, I'll go through my the rolling Tipperary starting 15 for the championship. So after every round of the league, we look at, right, how do we think the Tipperary team is going to line out come championship? So I have a feeling we could have a few changes to how we had it after the Limerick game following Saturday night. But Barry Hogan started in goals, made a few key saves throughout the game, looked really comfortable catching high ball under the crossbar and stuff like that. Was really vocal throughout the game, talking to his defenders and things like that. So it was really good to see, and see Barry making some good big saves as well. And his puck outs, a lot of times finding the right spaces around the field. He's seen it very well. That was a good, really good performance for Barry Hogan. Will do him the world of good as well, and might just push him in front of Rhys Shelley. As Liam Cowell said in his interview with Shane Brophy in The Guardian, that the plan was to give Rhys Shelley 2 games, Barry Hogan 2 games, and then kind of go from there. So it'll be really interesting to see who lines up against Kilkenny in 2 weeks' time. I'm kind of led to believe that Rhys Shelley will be fit for that, all going well. So let's see who Liam Cowell picks. But I thought Barry Hogan done really well. Full back line then, Robert Doyle, Owen Connolly and Brian O'Mara. Robert Doyle had a really good battle in there with Jack O'Connor. A lot of 50-50 ball went in there, and at times at the start of the game, Jack O'Connor was getting the better of the exchanges, and you're thinking, is this going to be the first kind of worrying moment for Robert Doyle, because he's been so good all league. But in fairness to him, he really grew into the game, and I thought he kind of finished maybe the better of that matchup between himself and Jack O'Connor. Jack O'Connor got a point for a finish and probably won a few frees early in the game, but Robert Doyle, I thought, done really well. He's really good at just spoiling the ball, and he's well able to hurl as well. He came out with a big ball and won a big free towards the end of the game, underneath the newsstand there as well. So really good performance from him. Owen Connolly, I thought, was solid at the back as well. He's kind of solidified that number 3 position, and he's done really well. Nothing too flash from him, but he loves the physical stuff coming out with the ball, and that's what you want to see from your fullback. Like, he's powering lads out of the way, and he's continued his good performances. Maybe a couple of long range frees he didn't strike 100%. That's a time of the year thing, I think, though. We know Owen Connolly is brilliant striker of the ball, and those long range frees for Cashel last year. Brian O'Mara wore number 4. I thought it's a strange one. He didn't influence the game too much, but your cornerback, so what can you do? But I just think there's more. Anyone who watches and listens to this podcast knows that I'm a massive fan of Brian O'Mara. His ball striking and everything like that is so good. I don't think man marking is his best trait, and I think you could probably get more from him, maybe pushed out the field, just with his ball striking ability, and that there's a really good hurler in there. He was replaced by Michael Corcoran, who we'll speak about later. I thought he'd done really well off the bench, but yeah, probably just like to see a bit more from Brian O'Mara, because there's a lot more in there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he's used throughout the rest of the league and what positions and things like that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Cornerback, I probably see him similar with Craig Morgan. Craig Morgan played cornerback in your for the last couple of years, and you're saying there's more in him. There's more to him, and you see him out midfield now, and he's kind of upped it to another level. So maybe Brian O'Mara might benefit from something like that, but we'll see. But his Holy Cross Ballycal clubmate Joe Caesar made his debut, and from the start, the first ball or two that came to him, you could see that how comfortable he was. And that's massive for a lad making his debut. Big crowd in Semple Stadium, tough task against Cork, and I thought he'd done really well for a debut, Joe Caesar. And it probably shows you Liam Cahill's faith that he has in him, because Joe Caesar was injured for the first month or so of the season, was named on the league panel as a kind of will be added once he's fit. Himself and Connor Stakelin were kind of footnotes at the end of the panel announcement. So it was interesting to see that his first involvement in a matchday squad is starting wing back, played the whole game, thought he done really well. Ronan Maher got man of the match on RTE, done so much right. So he's a real just pillar in that centre of the Tip defence. His ball striking unbelievable. Got that big free when Tip kind of needed a score to push him back into the lead after Cork had got those 4 in a row in the second half. Real solid stuff from Ronan. Had it one or two moments where he kind of got caught in possession. You know, there was that time he tried to hand pass the ball, got blocked down near the goals, and I think Barry Hogan had to make a save and went out for a 65. That was a bit of a shaky moment, and I'm sure he was thanking Barry Hogan for that. But all in all, really good performance from Ronan Maher. Michael Breen had an unreal kind of battle there between him and Brian Hayes. Two big physical players. I thought Michael Breen was really, really good, really physical, and he's such an asset to Tipperary because he is a really good man marker and he's so powerful coming out with that ball. I thought hit the matchup with him and Brian Hayes, two big kind of strong fellas. They matched up well on each other and they had a really good battle there. But Michael Breen is having a really good season so far for Tipperary, and he has the last couple of years. He's been asked to do lots of different jobs throughout his Tipperary career, from wing forward to midfield to full back. And to the full back line and wing back line when he was kind of switching in and out yesterday. Thought he had a really good game. Midfield then, this midfield duo, this is an interesting one going into the game. Craig Morgan and Willie Connors have been the partnership so far. It was going to be interesting to see how they get on against Tim O'Mahony and Darren Fitzgibbon. And I thought the lads held their own. I thought Craig Morgan was really, really good. Craig's ball striking, his tidiness in around the middle of the field. He got a really good score from distance, just a turnover ball came over to him on the 65 and just caught a shot straight away, straight over the bar down into the town end. And his striking technique as well, I'd say if you could see just a shadow of Craig Morgan's striking, you'd know it was him. He's really unique, kind of opens up the shoulders a bit, but yeah, got some great scores, and of course he set up that goal for Dylan Walsh with just a really, really good run, and that doesn't happen by accident. I'd imagine Liam Cahill is encouraging Craig Morgan to make those runs because he has the legs and he has speed as well, that he can just go. And we'll get to Jason Ford as well. He played a nice little flick to Craig Morgan for that goal. Willie Connors got a score, not as involved in the first half as he would have been in other games, but he is just extremely involved in the action when he's on the field for the most part. I think he did himself a good game again for Willie Connors, as he has throughout the season. And as Ken Hogan said on co-commentary with myself, probably hurling is best stuff he has for Tipperary's this year. So we'll hope that continues. Half forward line then, Grode O'Connor got 3 points. Got the first score of the game for Tipperary early on. Then I thought he made a couple of mistakes. Gave away a couple of frees, got caught for steps and things like that. Made a couple of poor decisions. You could see Liam Cahill getting frustrated with him. But then the second half, I thought he really kind of showed his best stuff. There was one point where he took on Robbie O'Flynn, cut inside, put it over the bar off his left. And that was a big moment in the game. I think that might have been the third point to push Tip 3 in the lead. And then the goal came, which was the kind of defining couple of minutes of the match. But I thought he grew into the game a lot, did Grode O'Connor, and got through a lot of work for a finish. Jake Morris, I thought very good as well. Mentioned the goal and hit the man beside him, Alan Tynan, with that brilliant catch. Pops it off to Jake Morris, and that's the best of Jake Morris. Just speed down through the middle, great finish. And he also got a great score. I mentioned earlier his work rate and turnovers. Like, there was that score he got, the point he got where Ethan Toomey's coming out with the ball on his own 65, runs into Jake Morris. Jake stands him up. The ball falls to the ground. Jake takes it, puts it over the bar. And that was a big score for Tipperary as well. So Jake is in a flying form for Tipperary, and long may that continue. Alan Tynan, I thought, was really good. He done a lot of right. He got a really good score. And then when Willie Connors went off and Oisin O'Donoghue came on, Alan Tynan went to midfield, and I thought he was really, really good as well. So I know he's a player that Liam Cahill really likes. And yeah, it was a really good performance from Alan Tynan. I'd be very happy with how he's hurling. And he can offer a lot to Tipperary in terms of midfield or wing forward. Gets through an awful lot of work. And yeah, very happy with how he played. Darren McCarthy, what can be said, 19 years of age. He'd only scored 1 point from play in the first 3 league games. Now, he had been banging the frees over and playing well in general play, but in terms of scoring from play, he just had the 1 point in the first 3 league games, and after 20 minutes against Cork, he had 4 points from play. Could have had a goal as well that we mentioned, and then the point he got before half time was unreal. To Cork's credit, in the second half, Niall O'Leary, who I thought had a really good game, went on to Darren McCarthy. Tip probably didn't get as much clean possession into Darren McCarthy in the second half, but Niall O'Leary done a really good job for Cork there as well. Really good man marker, and really good outing for Darren McCarthy. Has to, remember, he's only 19. This is his first year playing for the seniors, and to come through a real test like that in flying colours is really good stuff from him. Jason Ford, 3 points for him on the day, and I thought the thing that stood out for me for Jason today was there was one time he ran over the ball. It was a ball coming in, and he didn't touch it into his hand. But I'd say every other ball that came into him, his first touch was just so good. And considering how difficult the conditions were to be getting a first touch at speed with an intercounty and all-star fullback on your back and Owen Downey, I was very happy with how Jason Ford performed. He's going to be a big player for Tip this year, I think, because of his experience and his ability and the type of player he is. Like, his touches are so crisp. Like, his first touch was so good. His striking, he got some great scores. I'd be very happy with how Jason Ford played, considering the game he played against was at Wexford. He didn't do, I think it was Wexford, wasn't it? He didn't do too much in that game, but compared to Saturday night, I thought it was a marked improvement from Jason Ford, involved in a lot of the play as well. So Shawnee Kennelly, as we mentioned, had that chance where he kept it in play for Darren McCarthy that nearly finished up in the back of the net. Didn't get onto as much ball. He had the Niall O'Leary treatment, which Niall O'Leary, as I mentioned, had a fine game the other night. So it was real difficult for Shawnee Kennelly. I thought balls coming in, bobbling and things like that. But I wouldn't be fearing too much as long as he's okay. I know he's replaced at half time. Hopefully I'd imagine it was probably knock related. So we'll see how he gets on in 2 weeks' time, maybe against Kilkenny. So the subs that come on, 5 come on in total for Tipperary. We'll start at the back. Michael Corcoran come on for Brian O'Mara, and the first thing he did was Brian Hayes got the ball and went to take him on, and he just stood him up brilliantly, hands out, hands low, and just kind of stuck the chest out, let Brian Hayes run into him, and stood him up brilliantly. And any other kind of ball that came his way, done very well. Did get yellow carded at one stage, but I thought that was a really good performance from Michael Corcoran, considering he would have had a difficult time up in Galway in that first game. His first start for Tip didn't go his way. You could see that knock a young player's confidence, but kind of showed what's in Michael Corcoran, that he was able to come on and really be really solid in that game against Cork. Elsewhere, Oisin O'Donoghue came on and got just a scandalous score. Well, maybe not a scandalous score, but a really, really good score for a young player. Like, he has 2 years left under 20. Gets brought on. I think the first ball that kind of came his way, he might have left it behind him. It ended up in a ruck. But then a ball comes to him, I think, was it Alan Tynan played it forward. And he's on the sideline, a couple of yards in front of Liam Cahill, on just outside the 45. And he just didn't hesitate for a second. The minute he got it, he was going for it. He knew he had it in him and put it over the bar. I was delighted to see just the confidence in a young player like that in Oisin O'Donoghue. Great score from him, and really good to see him just so involved with the senior team at such a young age. And long may his development continue. Elsewhere, we saw Noel McGrath. He came on for Grode O'Connor, his first appearance of the year. Not a lot. He wasn't on. It was kind of late in the game when he came on. But got a huge ovation from the Tipperary crowd, so that was great to see. Great to see Noel McGrath back. He will have a big part to play this year as well, I'm sure. And I think he's probably been just managed in terms of minutes and workload and things like that. So great to see Noel McGrath back in action. We probably like to see him get more game time in these last 2 rounds of the league. And I'm sure he was probably the same as well. Like, he just when the full-time whistle went, you could see he was probably a little bit disappointed that he didn't get maybe more game time and things like that. But I think we'll see an awful lot more of Noel McGrath throughout the league. John McGrath came on as well, and similarly, he came on for Jason Ford. Not a lot of kind of ball came his way, and it was kind of late in the game and things like that. But another player that will be worthwhile as the year goes on is John McGrath, and you'd like to see him kind of. He's so influential for Lockmore, and I know intercounty is a completely different game, but you know what he has in his locker in terms of hold-up play, cuteness, things like that. So we'll see how he's used as the year goes on. And Dylan Walsh, as we mentioned, he was the other substitute, come on for Shawnee Kennelly. Got blocked down twice by Jeremy Millerick, and you're thinking, oh, what's happening here? But then he gets that goal. That will do him an awful lot of good, because you need your bench to influence the game when they come on. And Dylan Walsh did just that, and I'll take a lot of confidence from that. So that's how I saw the game, and the Tipperary players. I will mention Cork. Cork had a few changes. I thought Micheál Mullins, number 5, the yellow helmet wing back, I thought there's definitely a good hurler in him. I was really impressed with him. His strike in action is very similar to Declan Dalton in terms of really opening up the shoulders and letting rip. He got a good score. Thought he was a real tidy hurler. Ethan Toomey was on a lot of ball. He's a real kind of, he's like a ball carrier. He's really good in rucks, really good at just securing possession and bringing it forward. Shane Barrett showed the flashes. Like his pace is kind of frightening, and he did so well for the Cork goal. Shane Barrett, his pace, put the ball down to Hurley and just took off, and you can't catch him. And he kind of cut inside and faked a shot and just played it off the Hurley to Brian Hayes, who just took it past Barry Hogan and into the empty net. That was really, really good from Shane Barrett. And Cork have that, the likes of Darragh Fitzgibbon. Darragh Fitzgibbon got, what did he get, 11 points? Not sure how much from play, but he got a few from play, that's for sure. And he's just so good, Darragh Fitzgibbon. And just seeing him walking down the tunnel even the other day, like he's bigger than I thought he was. Like he's tall as well as being physically strong and fast as well. So that's Cork's threat. Patrick Horgan came on and got 3 points. Just such a good hurler. So tidy in possession. Brian Hayes got that goal as well. Had that big battle with Michael Breen. Elsewhere, Niall O'Leary, as I mentioned, was really good. Patrick Collins hit some really nice puck outs. Tim O'Mahony is always a player I just like to watch. His style and all that is good. Elsewhere for Cork, yeah, they brought on Diarmuid Healy, got on a bit of ball, had that chance at the end actually. That's another one for Barry Hogan actually. Tipper up by 4 points, and it was in injury time, so a Cork goal would have made the last kind of 60 seconds or so very interesting. Somehow the kind of ball broke at the edge of the Tipperary D, and it was Diarmuid Healy. It was him and Brian Hayes against Michael Breen, I think it was. Ham passed it over the top of Michael Breen, but Barry Hogan read it so well. He knew he had to leave his line early to cut out the pass, because if it went to Brian Hayes, it was going to be a goal. And the pass wasn't the crispest of hand passes from Diarmuid Healy, and Barry Hogan got out and cleared it out for a 65 that ended up going wide. But that was a big moment, and it just kind of rubber stamped a really good performance from Barry Hogan. So all in all, delighted with how Tipperary performed. As we said earlier, yes, it's only the league, but wouldn't you prefer to be winning these games, especially at home against a Munster rival? Like, it's a long time since Tip beat a Munster team in Semple Stadium. I think it might have been Waterford in the league a couple of years ago. We'd no wins against Munster or in the Munster Championship at home last year, or in 2022, or in 2023 actually. I think it's 2019 Tip's last home victory in Semple Stadium was in the Munster Championship. So that didn't change on Saturday night, but it's a move in the right direction, getting a league win over a Munster team, that's for sure. So let's see, we're 28 minutes into this podcast. We will quickly, will we go through our team? Yeah, we'll go through our team now. I do want to talk about the Congress motions as well a little bit. So the hand pass motion was rejected in Congress. So let's see, this is okay. This was the starting championship team prediction. So this is what I had it after the last round against Limerick. So let's see where we have it here. So we'll start with goals. I have Reece Shelley down in goals. I think with the way the last two games have gone, I think you probably have to say Barry Hogan has probably just pushed himself back out into the lead. But we will see how we get on against Kilkenny, who's going to be picked there. I think Robert Doyle, Owen Connolly, Michael Breen are all secure. As I said, I'd like to see more from Brian O'Mara. Do I see like Joe Caesar or someone coming straight into the team? I'd like to see a bit more. I'd say we'll leave Brian O'Mara there. Sam O'Farrell still nursing that injury. Will we see him in the starting lineup? Could we possibly put someone else in there? Seamus Kennedy is someone you could put, but I think we're going to leave that as is for the time being. And then we have Grode O'Connor, Jake Morris, Alan Tynan. That's the exact half forward line that started the other day. I think they're all fairly nailed on. Connor Stakelam's still yet to come back. Going to be interesting to see kind of what form he's in when he comes back. And then we had Shawnee Kennelly, Darren McCarthy, and then one of Dylan Walsh, Andrew Ormond. I think what we definitely need to do is add Jason Ford to that kind of trio. If you're just listening, we have the number 13 jersey is Dylan Walsh, Andrew Ormond / Jason Ford. So I think I was surprised we didn't see Andrew Ormond. I thought he had a really good start to the league, but we haven't seen him in the last couple of games. I don't think he played against Limerick either. So let's see. I don't think I'm going to make a call just yet. And of course, this is going to be a horses for courses thing. It's not like the same 15 are going to start every game for Tipperary in the championship. But I'd say that's probably so. We've changed maybe one position there. We have Barry Hogan coming in to the starting lineup, and then Jason Ford putting his name in the hat there as well, following his performance. So yeah, I think I'd be happy enough to leave it at that. If you think it's different, leave a comment below, and we'll see what people think. But let's just have a quick mention about the hurling hand pass motion. So it was defeated at the GA Annual Congress. So you can see the picture there on the screen. Tipperary delegate, former All-Ireland winner with Tip, Nina Rowe clubman Conor O'Donovan has been kind of really going after this rule in recent years and very much passionate about the subject. He wants to get the hand pass rule changed, so you can't just hand pass it as the way you would in terms of holding the ball in this hand and hand passing it in the same. He wants either you have to throw it up and hand pass it with your other hand, or throw it up and pass it off the hurley, or throw it up, bounce it off the hurley and pass it with your hand. Then it was trialled in freshers games a couple of years ago, and I probably should have watched more of them and really studied how those games played out, because my fear would be, okay, if that is the rule, then what you could see happening is all a tackler has to do is just hold up one of your hands some way, legally or illegally. But let's say it's legally, just getting in your way. You need both hands to hand pass, whatever way you look at it. So what that might lead to is players saying it's not worth the risk going into contact. And I think that's what Conor O'Donovan might want, in terms of players not taking it into contact and striking it down the field. But what I think what could happen is, instead of players just striking it down the field, players will actually turn back to retain possession and hand pass it away. So I think it could lead to even more possession and less striking. So that would be my fear. We'll see what was said here. It got 32.4% of the votes at Congress. So I think you need, is it 60% you need to pass? So it probably got a decent vote, but not as much as what was needed. And you can see what was kind of said at Congress here. This is an article on ga.ie by Cian O'Connell that I have up on the screen here if you're just listening. But Terry Riley, chairperson of the Hurling Development Committee, spoke against the proposal. Quote, "As a committee, we've discussed this on 2 occasions," Riley remarked. "We're strongly against the introduction of the rule. It could cause more rucks and penalise the skill of hand passing. The game of hurling doesn't need to be tinkered with. We're strongly against this rule." Then it says Liam Keane, the chairperson of the Standing Players Rules Committee, also spoke about the motion. Quote, "Our advice is Congress is that this wouldn't enhance the game." Keane said the proposed motion would slow down the game. And Cork's Pat Horgan and Offaly's Michael Duggan also discussed the proposal, with 67.6% of delegates voting against the motion, which wasn't carried. So that's how it finished up. So I think probably the right thing was done. I do agree that hand passing and throwing the ball is happening an awful lot. There was no freeze given for throwing the ball, I think, in Tip versus Cork. Could you 100% guarantee that there was no throw ball there? You probably couldn't. So there's definitely some ones that I think, look, if you're a referee, if you call for a throw, first of all, it's hard to see it. These things happen so quickly, and players are able to move their hands very quickly. It might be a clear strike in action, but a very quick clear strike in action that might make it as clear. So it's a tough one to police for referees. So I do have a lot of sympathy there. And then if you do give one, well, for the rest of the game, for every hand pass, people are going to be roaring throw ball. So it's been called a scourge on the game and things like that. Look, I think some games are worse than others. Some teams play the ball through the hands more than others as well, and look, I think, does something need to be done? Perhaps, but I think it was probably the right thing to not vote in this motion. But I think it's still something that Conor O'Donovan and even the Hurling Development Committee should still be looking at, as they should always be looking at ways to enhance the game of hurling. But as they're saying, hurling doesn't really need to be tinkered with. I'd be, for the most part, in agreement with that statement. So that hand pass motion was defeated. Let me know what you think of that in the comments section below. So that's pretty much all we have for this week's podcast. I'll make sure I didn't have anything written down that I didn't mention. So yeah, all in all, good result from Tipperary. Last 20 minutes strong, and that's all. That's what we want to see. So a nice kind of stepping stone, hopefully, for the rest of the year. But as Liam Cowell and some of the players were saying, it's all about the next day now. So that's pretty much it for our reflections back on Tipperary versus Cork. They'll meet again on April 27th down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and I, for one, are really looking forward to that game. So that's it for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. It's completely free. You just get a notification or whatever when I do upload videos. So and it's yeah, it's been going well on YouTube, so it's good to see that. So hopefully this one does well as well. So any likes, subscribes, anything like that does us the world of good. On Spotify as well, give us a good rating and things like that if you can. And the best place, as I said, to follow me is on Twitter at PCarrollSport. Likes and retweets are always welcome there as well. So that's it for this week's podcast. No podcast next week, I would imagine. The Tip Senior Hurler is not in action, so we'll do something after the Tip Kilkenny game. So for now, have a good couple of weeks, and we'll catch up in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.